Hi, Guyafshan.
Hi.
How are you doing?
I'm fine. Hope you will be fine too.
Yes, yes. I mean, again, I conduct those interviews and I chat with women writers every Friday. So obviously, I'm always in a very good mood because it's just the beginning of the weekend, it's the end of the week. So yeah, usually I'm doing well, and I love speaking with you girls around the world anyway. So I'm great.
It's
What
very
time is it
interesting.
in Pakistan now?
It's like lunchtime, you can say. It's 3 p.m.
Ah,
So
yeah,
it's
3
almost
p.m. So it's still okay, the afternoon.
yeah.
Cool. So I'm very excited to have this interview with you, Gulia Chan. We've been speaking as well for a while. And so, as I put in the introduction in the video, so I call you the Pakistanis rebel because, yeah, first time I talked to you, I really felt that strong energy in your voice. And I was really like absorbed into your story and so many things that you've been challenging in Pakistan. So yeah, you were born and raised in Pakistan, and you first experienced the two wheels on the bicycles basically when you were living with your parents in the military compound and with your two sisters and brothers. And your first experience of freedom on two wheels was actually through bicycling. So you convinced one of your girlfriends to flee the home and go on an adventure for 9 days to go to the Chinese border, and so that was quite bold for a 22 years old Pakistanis woman. And 2 years later, you went on a months long motorcycle road trip. And where? Well, you chose KPK, which is, you will tell us about that obviously, but which is one of the Taliban region of Pakistan that is that is seen as very dangerous and forbidden. But that's also where you discover a completely different picture of your country. So anyway, let's start with that. What I'd like you to share a little bit more with us about this trip to KPK. And of course, some people would think that it was totally unconscious and dangerous, like it's a war area. So why did you make this choice in the first place? Why did you choose to take this leap of faith in a way? And what were the main takeaways? What did you learn from that trip?
So yeah. So as you know, my whole childhood was in the military compound, and we always listened that this area, specifically the KPK region, is very dangerous for, in fact, even for the male to go alone and to explore that area. Since my childhood, it was in my mind that I need to go and I need to see. I don't know why people are saying it's scary. I don't know. I love to challenge myself. I love to challenge the norms of the society. And that's why I opt that I need to go to this area. And that's why I opt my motorbiking, that I will take like a whole month motorbiking trip across that area. And when a solo girl, like Muslim girl in Pakistan, can go and come back safely, so it will be safe. And I want to show that thing. And that's why I started my journey, and it was super crazy. The people were lovely, they were really hospitable. I really, they gave me everything they have. Like even the poor people in that area, even they have like small things to eat in their home, they give it to me. They give me their precious things as their gift and all those things. That journey was super crazy. And when I came back, I decided that, I'm traveling in different areas, but my country needs me, because if I don't share this content like internationally, people will not understand. They always think that we are Taliban, we are terrorists, but we are not. And that's why, because people are lovely. I just saw their love and everything. It's like I can't express that in the words, but that was really amazing. And that was not the thing that is portrayed by the media. In fact, all the news channels, they always show negative content. I don't know why, it might be rating and all that, but all the good aspects which my culture and my society have, it's not shown everywhere. So that was my concept after that trip, that I need to do that, and that's what I'm doing till date. Yeah.
Okay, very good point. So yeah, so basically, I understand that there was this drive, of basically looking for yourself, you know, and check it for yourself and see the reality by yourself, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And actually, I was really surprised as well when you told me about this trip. Uh, Basically, that's also where you found love. So you went to an area where you were expecting danger and war and maybe violence and taking some risk. And so you were able to demonstrate another face of your country, a different version of where you live, but you also found love along the way. So can you tell us about that story?
Yeah, it looks like a film story which you always saw in different movies, but it's reality when I went to that area where I am at the moment as well. It's called Sawat. And if you know about Malala, she also belonged to this area. Like this was the really dangerous area which everybody was thinking. And when I came to this area and I was, meeting people, local people, going to their houses and saw how they are treating me, I found my husband, which is now my husband. But at that time, he was a filmmaker. He loved to make videos on his camera, and I saw his skill. And he was like, I can I join you for a few days, if you can allow me. And I was like, yeah, we are going to the north, and if you like to go with me, because in this area they speak another language which I don't understand. That was another edge for me as well, because he know my language a little bit, but he can also know the local language. So he can translate with me as well. And he was making nice videos and pictures and my messages, like I'm meeting different people and sharing their experiences. So it was a helpful thing for me as well. So I took him, I said, yes, let's go. And when after that journey we came back, he decided that he will move to my city, and then he started his career and all that. And we were together and we just got married. And it was like, I can't even imagine that this happened, but it happened. Yeah.
Was he following you on a bike?
No, he was not on bike. He was actually like hitchhiking, you can say. Like he was going on different transportation. He was not a biker at that time. But after that journey, he moved to my city. After like we got married, he's proper biker now. He supports me. He loves to go with me, and we do journeys together. So it's totally different now. But at that
So, so
time,
you're the one so you're the one who hooked him up into motorcycles, right?
a lot of people say that, but I think you can't push anybody to ride a motorcycle. It's like his own inspiration as well. But
Yeah.
yeah, in some context that yeah, he saw me and he wanted to be with me, so he learned the skill, and I'm also learning photography and videography so that I can also help him out. So it's like together we are doing things. So yeah.
That's nice. Is that very common? So some people, you know, we were talking a little bit earlier with the marriage traditions of in South Asia or India or Nepal, because I know those countries, I've been there, so I know that in those countries it's quite common to have arranged weddings or arranged marriage. Is that the case as well in Pakistan, or is it
No,
less common?
no, it's not common at all. It's very, very rare. And it's so difficult to get married with another tribe. Like I belong to another area of Pakistan, another tribe, and they are from another. So it's very difficult. Um, it took us like a lot of time to convince our families that, we want to be together. But because it was in our mind and we wanted and we were loyal to each other, it eventually happened automatically. But it's really difficult to do this in Pakistan. Yes.
So it's very normal to have a natural relationship, like not arranged marriage. However, love relationships, they still have to be within certain tribes. Like
Yeah,
okay, how many different tribes do you have in Pakistan?
we have like big four tribes. There are four different culture. They belong from four different, but religion is same. It's only that their territory, like their areas and their culture, dressing, and their language and everything. So it's totally different. And a lot of families they don't get married in different tribes. So that
Okay,
was
so what are
another
the
difference.
names? What are the names of the four tribes?
It's like Punjabi, Pathan, Balochi, and Sindhi. So these
Ah,
are
yeah,
like
okay.
four tracks, and one is Kashmiri, but Kashmir is like still in between war with India.
Yeah.
So we don't have, but the four is like Balochi, Sindhi, Pathan, and Sindhi. Yeah, these all are
Yeah, and the
four.
Punjabi is the part that touches, you have a part of Punjab in India, right?
Yeah, it's like I belong from Punjab. I'm Punjabi. So we have like an area which is in India as well, and another is area similar in Pakistan. So I belong from Punjab. So I'm Punjabi. He was Pathan from KPK. So
Okay, yeah, it's a little bit like the Basque country in France. We have an area that is half between Spain and France as well that are,
yeah,
so it's basically they want their own, they have their own culture that's like split across country, like yeah, borders, definitions sometimes didn't make sense. Uh,
yeah.
and okay, so those four, yeah, so those four tribes, you have the same religion, but you don't speak the same languages, and you have different ways of
Mm.
dressing or cultural habits, right? Yeah.
Yeah, everything is totally different.
Okay, so when you come visit Pakistan, it's like visiting four different countries, right?
Yeah, it's similar like that. That's why I love to explore other areas, other tribes, because they are also like exploring another country. It's like
Yeah.
totally different things. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I understand the attraction for KPK in a way, because it was like visiting a different area. And so more recently, so you went to the UK, so and then I'm thinking, wow, the UK must be quite boring in a way because it's the same everywhere, in comparison to Pakistan. But you traveled, so you went on your own. Your husband stayed at home, and you went on a months-long trip on your own to the UK just during the pandemic. So can you tell us a bit about this trip? And so you met a lot of women riders there as well, and British women riders. So did you learn anything from them? What was your experience there?
So when I decided that I got an opportunity that I can represent my country in like European and English countries, so I said I will go. Like I want to go and I want to meet all those ladies I know on social media. I never met any female biker before that. Like I only know few of them who come to Pakistan, but not like from different. So when I went there and I saw it was like an eye-opening thing. Like it was totally different atmosphere, different energy, and the girls how they have same passion. The passion was similar, like how I want to travel and they want to travel. They want to take their bike whenever they get time from their job on weekends or early mornings. It was similar, and I learned a lot of things from that trip. It was like I don't know how to do mechanics. I never know how to maintain my kits, like my helmets and gear, how to clean them, and what dry bag is actually. I don't know about those type of even small things because I was already traveling in Pakistan and Middle East, but there is not big clubs for women. So it was really new thing for me to meet them and learn their culture and all those things, how they are treating me. It was super amazing. And I remember I was stuck because of this pandemic for 3 months in Scotland, and the people were lovely because I was from Asia, and we have also a really different image for pure British people. Like they must be racist, they must be like this, they don't eat spice, they don't do this. But when I was there, it was totally different. I saw a lot of spices in their kitchen. I know they were cooking similar dishes. They love my food, and they were not racist at all. So it was totally different for me, and that's what I'm promoting here as well in Pakistan. The people are not like that. You see only on series or Netflix or on media. It's totally different. You need to go and explore them. So it was really amazing.
Yeah, I think that's very interesting. I mean, I love to have your insight as well as an Asian woman, traveling to Europe because depending in which shoes we put ourselves in, it's a total different perspective, right? But but what I feel from you definitely is this sense that we really need to discover by ourselves. There's such big gaps between the stereotypes and when we see in media, when we see what we see in mainstream media, right? And what you actually experience. It doesn't mean that there's no British people who are racist, or it doesn't mean that there are no Taliban who will kill you in KPK, not at all. But it also means that when you discover by yourself, you get a different reality. and not something that you see in mainstream. And what I get from you as well that I find quite impactful is that, yeah, no matter where we are or our culture, our language, I can see that you felt the same passion for two wheels, and that got you really closer to those people, even though on paper you didn't have anything in common. But when you are passionate by something, or you have a vision of something, or you have a love for something, then it's you get closer. It's like we always say, in love, it's not about looking at each other, it's about looking in the same direction. I feel for friendships and communities, it's a bit the same, especially in the motorcycle community, right?
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah.
On the other side, I also wanted to ask you, so in Pakistan, are there any challenges that, because you also mentioned that it was really impressive for you to see in the UK so many women riders, because in Pakistan there are not that many, right? So can you tell us what are the key challenges for women to ride motorcycles in Pakistan? Which ones you have faced yourself and how you overcame them?
So first thing is, when you tell this thing to your parents that I want to go out and ride my motorbike, they will be shocked. They will say, no, you can't do it. In fact, your parents or brother or society or neighbors, everybody, because it's not that common. Like, it's not common even here to ride a bicycle for women. So you have to be covered up, and you can only take like local transportation or cabs. That's it. That's the only like your mean to go anywhere if you want to go alone independently. So first challenge I faced was because I was actually earning like from my job, and it was not that economical that I take like cab on daily basis, and I can't wait for my brother or my husband to take me to my office. I want to be independent. And that's what I started. I started like earning a bit. And then when I went to the local transportation, there is a lot of harassment going on there. Like whenever you sit next to the driver in local transportation, they always harass you. And that's like normal thing in Pakistan. And you can't share it with your parents even. So when I said I want to ride my motorbike, my mom was like, no, you can't do this. And I said that I will learn mixed martial arts, self-defense, and I will, I can go out and I can do this thing. And that, just to convince my mom, I learned this self-defense training so that she is fine that I can go out and I can ride my bike and I can hit men back. But it never happened with me. When I bought my bicycle and then my motorbike, it was not like that. So first thing is your society. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, just a question, because I find this quite paradoxical, right? Because you're saying that basically it's when you're on the bus or when you are in public transport that you are in danger, but you fear, or you don't tell it to your parents, so they think that public transport is safer for you, when in fact it's not. So it's quite paradoxical that they ask you to learn self-defense to ride a motorcycle, when in fact you should learn that when you're on the bus, right?
That's so true, because here girls don't know their rights, and they always feel hesitate, and they have this thing in them that they can't speak this type of things with their parents. There is like a gap, communication gap between girls and their parents or their brothers. It's like respectful thing. If you tell this thing to them, they feel like there is some problem in girls. They always point girls here. That was a big thing here. Still, it's here. We are like very few girls who took this courage and they come on motorbike and doing this for their transportation. And believe me, I feel more safe and secure on my motorbike than any other thing. In fact, even in cab with a unknown stranger driver, it's still comfortable for me to ride like my own motorbike. But it will take time to change and change their stereotypes, to change their mentality, and to show them that this thing is happening with your daughters, with your wives, that you are sending them. But yeah, it will take time. And another thing is that because it's cheap as well, they can't afford that much, so that's why they always go on public transportation. And if they come on motorbike, it will be cheaper for them as well. So this is another thing I'm trying to promote here, that give scooters and motorbikes to your women, even if they want to cover up, just cover them up, wear the proper gears and just go. So
So actually,
the
motorcycling would be potentially safer, but also cheaper
people,
for
yeah,
for women in Pakistan. Okay,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
okay. Yeah, no, I find it. Yeah, it's questioning. Like it's really paradoxical. I find.
yeah.
Um, so how? So you took that leap of faith, like you took the courage. So it was easier for you basically to tell your parents that you wanted to ride a motorbike rather than tell
Yeah.
your parents that you were harassed in public transport.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's so true. Now I'm more bold after my self-defense training that I can share all those incidents with my parents, and my I can spread this message around. But before that thing, I was even myself, I was not able to share those things with my parents because it's
Yeah.
like not respectable thing to share. They
But
always punish
what changed in you? What changed in you, and what gave you the self confidence at some point to say, that's enough, and I want to have a bike, and then to speak up to your parents and so on? What has anything happened that kind of triggered and gave you that self confidence?
Yeah, it was after my self-defense training, because before that my grooming was like I was covered with my protection with my brothers or with my father and all that thing. I was really, I can't raise my voice. I was really hesitated. I always shy. But after that self-defense, when I have those gloves and I was taking that bag, I was like, I'm releasing all my anger. I feel all that freedom in me, and that's how it all started. Like I start hitting that guy who was harassing me on my local transportation. I was kicking him literally. Like it's your fault. It's not my fault. What are you doing? If you are doing wrong, and that's how it starts changing in me.
Okay.
And I was like really open, and I was like, I can do anything. Nobody can stop me now. So it was like that moment in my life.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So now, so when you ride on motorcycles, so now that you ride on motorcycles or you have a fellow women riding on motorcycles, do you still face challenges and harassment, or you know, do you face any other challenges like on the motorcycles, not in public transport, but when you ride bikes?
I face a little bit, and it's not only in Pakistan. If I ride my bike everywhere, it's similar. Like people are shocked, like a girl is riding a bike. That they can't absorb that thing. And I feel same thing in UK as well. It was not only in Pakistan when I was there. And my friend was riding a bike, and she parked her bike, and it was like all boys area, all boys biker were parked their bikes. They started staring her, and I was like, why they are staring you? She told me that it's similar here. They can't accept a girl is riding a bike. So it's similar, and I feel similar that they stare or they just follow me, but nothing else. They can't do anything else to me. Never happened. Or yeah, it's like that. But yeah, there are problems, but it needs to be changed. But I don't know when it will change. It's everywhere.
Yeah, yeah. So basically, I think the key is self-confident and, pardon my French, but not giving a shit. So basically, people look at you or they look at you strangely or aggressively or whatever, but it's if we don't give a shit, then they'll get used to it, right? So
Yes,
basically, it's our attitudes which needs to change. We cannot change the attitudes of others, and you're not going to prevent stupid guys to harass you in buses or when you're riding your bikes. Ultimately, that would be a big like a big challenge to do and change society at once. But the way we react as women and the way we build our own internal self-confidence and are able to say no and fight against it is what's going to change in the longer run, right?
yeah.
Okay. So what would be your aspirations for women in Pakistan? So we talked about of course, safety in public transport, and that motorcycle can be a nice way for women to build their confidence and independence and safety. But do you have any other aspiration for women in Pakistan in particular? And how do you think that motorcycling can support those aspirations?
So I believe that one day, like all girls will have their own transportation because we face a lot of problem here. It's not like on motorbike or on cycle. Even if you're walking, going anywhere, girls can't express themselves. Like they can't share their problems to anyone. Even if you're going for shopping, let's say, they feel harassment. So I want to make this public to use this self-defense at least to initiate this thing in girls that they should take the self-defense training so that they can open their mind and then tell them their rights, like their women rights, that what are your basic rights and what the other boys are doing wrong with you. And then obviously the motorbiking and scooters, I want to introduce all of these things in them. But initial step is to take them out from their box. That's the main problem here because since their childhood they are treating like they are some, I don't know which type of creature they are treating women here, but they want them to be really safe, sound in their homes. But it's not like that. Even in your homes, you are not safe because there is drivers, there are maids who come there, and whenever you go for grocery shopping, still this thing is happening. And it's not only in Pakistan; it's majorly in Asia. It's more common. In Europe, it's a little bit advanced because they know their rights. They are way ahead than us. But I want to you know, share this thing on a wider area, especially in Pakistan and then to my neighboring countries, um, to to know your rights, to know how to raise your voice, and then whatever you want to do, you will be unstoppable. You can do anything here. So yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah, so basically a very nice aspiration of having women feeling free to do what they want and to move around without being scared and being self-confident and knowing their rights, right? Your video has been cut off. Maybe we have a little issue with the Wi-Fi. No, I can hear you again. Great.
Yeah, I'm back. Yeah.
Cool.
Sorry, there was a problem with internet.
So yeah, I guess that's the aspiration, like having women in Pakistan being able to move freely and safely. And of course, self-confidence and motorcycles are beautiful tools to use to achieve that, right?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Okay, so speaking of which, I'd like to ask you more about the project that you have to create a motorcycle riding school for women in particular. So can you tell us a bit more about it, what you are up to, what stage of the project you are in? Tell us a bit more about that.
So yeah, basically, as you know about my vision, I want to introduce this concept here that girls can do anything. And as I told they were, I need to do this self-defense training common for all. So I'm making like a small academy. I'm initiating this from the capital city of Pakistan, and I'm looking forward to make this area open for all. And in that area, I will initiate self-defense training and then basics about how to ride a cycle and to be able to make your balance, and then on motorbiking, and then giving them scooties on installments so that they can earn like a little bit, and then they can afford their own scooties or motorbikes, and then they will be independent. So that's the bigger aim which I'm currently working on this project, so it will be common for all.
So do you get any support? Like we talked about that. I mean, I think women emancipation and women's freedom and women's rights is an important topic nowadays. Are there any organizations out there in Asia or in Pakistan which are supporting you and kind of encouraging this project? Like how do you make that happen? Because today you're on your own. So how do you make that happen? Where do you get support from?
Basically, there is no support from the government or from my surrounding because this is really new thing here, and people don't appreciate this type of things here, you know. And I want to do it from my personal experience, which I feel I learned, and now I'm more independent, and I want this thing to be common in my girls. So that's why what I'm doing is I'm targeting few sponsors, obviously, but it's not like that. Their response is not really good, but still I want to do this, and I'm looking for like my neighboring or my friends from abroad. They are also supporting me, like you as well. So you know, to come up with me, and then we can start this thing. In fact, even if I can't afford it, but then there are few ideas which my other girls abroad who are already doing this initiative shared with me, and I'm in touch with few companies who can give their bikes and all that, but I will start with my own bikes and letting them girls to learn on that, and then we can get this thing. But on the government level, no support, and from organization, no. There is not even one riding school here for girls specifically. So it's like a really, really new thing here. Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, so as we discussed previously, so I connected you with my friend Jag in India, who's done a similar thing. There is also Israt in Bangladesh. I was talking with her previously, and so she's doing a similar initiative, and she started with her own bikes as well. And she has a few women who ride bikes who lend their own and try to teach others. But I agree with you. I mean, at some point, this is nice, but if you want to scale and if you want to make an impact, you need to have more budget, more support, and to be able also to reach all those girls, you know, and knock at the doors and talk to them and reach them out through the right channels. How can we support you? Like, outside, so you said there are some maybe brand companies who could give bikes and so on, but in general, if you could ask something, like if you could speak to the world and ask bikers and women riders in particular to support your project, how could we help you best?
I think because I can't get donation like that, but the thing is, if some girls like biker females or community can sponsor girls here, like if they sponsor one of them, that they will support her training cost and you know a little bit investment for her bike, that would be amazing. Like targeting individuals will bring together a big impact. I think if everyone can contribute, every country can contribute a little bit to individuals here, I think I can start like really quickly, and it can be spread out. And also another thing, if some bikers, because I know you guys are more experienced in mechanics and all those things, like how to maintain your own bike, it would be great if you come to my country and I can host you here. Like whoever wants to come here, I can host you, and in return, you can give that training to my girls. That would be amazing. Because we don't have that much trainers here. I'm only one, and I have like a couple of girls on my fingertips who can give like basic training, like how to ride it. But all that advanced training, I think if girls can come, that would be amazing. Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Well, as I told you earlier, so I'm a very poor mechanic because I was lucky enough to have my dad and a whole motorcycle club who would always look after my bike. But I'm learning. I'm learning slowly. No, but what I wanted to say is, as we discussed previously, as you know, as part of my company, 3W, the idea is to do motorcycle tours as well for women who wants to take part in adventures and go at the encounter of other amazing women like you in countries and discover, you know, countries that are not particularly touristic, but where we can really go off the beaten path and live experiences with local women, right? So definitely, I mean, I already have in my mind a few of the women riders that I know who want to join some of those trips, who are definitely much better mechanics to give some advices and to visit. Hopefully, by the time we can have a trip to Pakistan, hopefully will be you will have a school, at least a start of a school, and some women riders there. And then, of course, as we discussed previously, I'm more than happy to discuss further with you on how we can actually organize a tour there, and where we can share some of the profits, and some of those profits can be invested in your school, exactly as we do in India with Jai. So I'd love to replicate that for sure. So yeah, that's on the map.
Yeah, that would be amazing. Like we can work together on this, and I would love to do this in Pakistan so that it will eventually benefit my girls and make them more empowered, so that they will be free to go anywhere, do whatever they want to do.
Yeah, yes, exactly. And yeah, I'd love to travel to areas in the Pakistan, because that's something, again, as a woman rider, that not many women would do on their own. But when we come as a group, and if we are hosted by a local woman like you, it's totally different. It's a different experience. So yeah, I
Yeah,
definitely
that's
would love
so true. Would love to host you guys. I can't wait that when this corona will go away and you girls will be here. It would be amazing, to show you my culture and how we are living here. It would be amazing.
Yeah, so let's put that on the map. So I put it in my list of, countries that we can go visit. So let's work on that during the COVID, so that as soon as borders reopen, we are ready for you.
Yeah, let's do that for sure.
Thank you so much, Guliabshan. As usual, it was a pleasure chatting with you. And obviously, it's not the last time we talk, because we have a few topics, as mentioned, to still discuss together. And hopefully, next time we'll do, maybe in a few months, we'll do another chat like that, but we'll invite other women riders for Q&A sessions on our trip to Pakistan.
Yeah, for sure. And I can't wait to see you girls in person. So we will utilize this Corona time in mapping all those things. And yeah, thank you so much for having me here.
Pleasure, pleasure, Guliabshan. And until then, again, if you want to come to KL, you also have a place to stay, and lots of beautiful places to discover. Hopefully, the borders will be open next year.
Yeah. Let's hope this whole thing will go away soon. Yeah.
So take good care. I wish you a great Friday evening, and yeah, I'm looking forward to chatting with you again.
Yeah. Take care of yourself, Esther. Thanks so much.
Bye, Guliabshan.
Bye.